Welcome to Conversations, where your host, Carl Kozlowski, talks with the world's most interesting people. And now, this week's Conversation. Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to another edition of Conversations, coming to you from the luxurious studios of Radio Titans in Los Angeles. I'm your host, Carl Kozlowski, and each week I bring you some of the most fascinating guests from the worlds of pop culture, politics, and beyond. And today I'm delighted to be bringing one of my absolute heroes in comedy, the king of clean comedy, Jim Gaffigan. He has not only had a string of successful specials on Netflix, he also has 2 best-selling humor books and has acted in dozens of projects. This year alone, he's going to have over a dozen movies that he's in. And on April 6th, he's coming out with the new movie, Chappaquiddick, in which he takes an unusually serious turn in playing a key role as part of the cover-up, the story of the cover-up of Ted Kennedy's mysterious accident that led to the death of Mary Jo Kopechne and thus ruined his ever having the ability to run for president again. So, ladies and gentlemen, this interview comes as a combination of a roundtable first from a press day promoting the movie at the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills, with Jim jumping in, getting it from a quote onward, and then there's going to be some questions from other people, and then I have my own exclusive interview tagged onto that as well. But put it all together, and you've got quite a lot of quality Q&A with Jim Gaffigan. Thanks.
Understanding the importance, the historical significance of Chappaquiddick and holding him back from getting the nomination. Even when, I remember there was an SNL sketch where like one of the characters just said Chappaquiddick whenever Ted Kennedy opened his mouth. He just said Chappaquiddick. And Ted Kennedy couldn't say anything. So there was, and also I had a lot of interest in this because of the power Ted Kennedy had or still retained. Even like, I don't know if you remember, but the influence in him picking John Kerry. We all thought it was Howard Dean. Howard Dean kind of stumbled in Iowa, and then John Kerry did okay, and Ted Kennedy kind of knighted him, and we were all like, okay, John Kerry. So there was something of a curiosity surrounding that, but it was definitely a script that I wanted to read, and when I looked at the part, some of it was a little late, like I think it was August, I got the script, I was with my family, and I was like, look, this is a great script, but I don't know if this guy, Paul Markham, I don't know if it's good enough throwing my calendar out to do this. And then they were like, no, we'll adjust. So like there were nights when I was, I would do 2 shows at the Wilbur Theater in Boston, and then I would drive and shoot, which was great in a lot of ways. That and napping are my favorite things.
So what kind of research did you do into the character of Paul Markham? And because I know Jason did extensive research, the other actors also did. What was there you could dive into about Paul, or did you have to rely on the script?
Well, it was important to, given that this movie is about Ted and about the cover-up, I knew that my character, the research I did, and I did do research on Paul, but I didn't want to be like, hey, I discovered he went to high school in D.C. That wouldn't help the story that we're telling. The conversations I had with John, that Paul, the important element was to communicate that Paul was, unlike Joe Gargan, who was a cousin and essentially raised by the Kennedy, kind of like a brother. Paul was someone that was kind of symbolized that desire to get in the Kennedy circle, but you got to be careful what you wish for. So there was a lot of, if you see the arc of my character, he was very much somebody who was excited. He was at this Chappaquiddick weekend house with them. He was sailing with Ted. He was in the circle. They were going to do good. Paul Markham was already a U.S. attorney. He was connected, but he was going to be a player. But once you get in, so once Teddy came and asked for Joe and Paul, he was pulled into this mess, and who knows? He could have become part of the Supreme Court. He could have done a lot of things, but I think following Chappaquiddick, there was that association of, did he contribute to this cover-up? If he did contribute to the cover-up, how could he go through a confirmation hearing? Do you know what I mean? So, did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I wanted to ask you, I'm reading your bio that they have here, and I'm exhausted by the 4th paragraph. You do so much stuff.
Yeah, it's either that or feel feelings.
So, was this a walk in the park for you? Was this a departure for you? And how the hell do you juggle all the things you do?
Well, some of it is, I love acting. I consider myself a journeyman, who's been in this business for 30 years, and so opportunities come up, and I don't have control of when they come up or how they come up, whether they stack up next to each other. I have to take them when I can. So. Well,
this seems this part that you played of Paul seems very different from what I would expect from you. Were you a little bit nervous? Did you? I've
done a fair amount of acting and some dramatic work, and I did a play on Broadway, but in the perception realm, because I have some success in stand-up, I think people associate. They're like, he's a comedian. He's like Gallagher. Why would he want to do any acting? But I've always, I learned early on that you don't really have that much control over how you're perceived. So, my first hour special, when it was going to air on Comedy Central in 2006, I had done a fair amount of sitcom acting. And I remember there was a blurb, sitcom actor tries stand-up comedy. But I had always done stand-up, but the perception was that I was a sitcom actor. So, I'm, as long as the directors see me as, and the producers see me as the right actor for the role, I don't, It's an interesting story that I'm a comedian, but I also was a stock boy in a grocery store too.
Tell me about the first night you did stand up.
Oh my gosh. I think it was in 1801. It was 1990, the end of January. I had always been a kind of a class clown, but funny in small groups, and loved stand-up, and did this improv class because I had not a fear of public speaking, but like if I was in a setting like this, my head would just turn red and I'd start kind of hyperventilating, and so I was suggested to do improv. So I did improv, and then someone in the improv class was going to do the stand-up seminar, so I did the stand-up seminar. But to answer your question, the first time I did stand up, there was something, I was like, oh, this feels completely right. And it was incredibly rewarding to change the mood of people in the room, many of them that I didn't know. And it was a great night. And then I bombed for 6 months after that. But,
right. Then how they hook you, it's like heroin.
It is. It's coming up with a new joke. And there's nights when I won't do stand-up. I'll go a couple nights and I won't do stand-up, and I'll be kind of grumpy, and my wife will be like, go get your fix,
Comedy and drama seems to be sort of intertwined. It's sort of the same muscle. I'm wondering if you can maybe comment on like that. Is it more challenging to do more of the dramatic facets than it is to sort of bring out the inherent comedy of situations?
Yeah, I should have a good answer for this because
Sorry,
I think it's
so
but I think there is something that is very true there. What I would say is that all the comedians that I know, that I'm good friends with, are very sincere people. I think that I guess I would view comedy as you build this tension and then you relieve it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you take you're kind of like mocking the sincerity of it, whereas the dramatic moment you completely are vulnerable. Mm. So there's what I love about drama is that you can hide in the character, whereas in stand-up you're up there writing, directing, and performing. But I love acting because in the end it is like dress up. You're like, okay, I'm going to play a guy from Boston who wears a suit, who's a lawyer from 1969, and you're like, that's fun. I have children. That's what they're doing.
Right.
They're not doing Boston lawyers 69, but
what kind of kids you have?
Yeah. But it's so fun. It's weird because I think I enjoy comedies, and I've done a lot of television comedies, but there isn't that impatience in drama. Like with a comedy, people are like, I haven't laughed in 25 seconds. I haven't, and with drama, it's, you just sit out there. It's just like, it's kind of like that moment in 12 Years a Slave where like, he would just hold on those scenes where like someone's, hanging, and you're like, why are you hanging there? Because that's the drama. It's just like, sit in that for a moment more than you should.
Sure.
Did you get any chance to put any of your own stuff into the character? Was there that opportunity? Did they allow?
It was always a dialogue, but it was, it's like having been like the executive producer of a show, and like I wrote this show with my wife. I also relish the opportunity to be a good soldier and to not be, to be someone that the director can count on to show up, add value. Obviously you want someone to add value, but you also don't want to be the nudge that will never shut up. So yes, but only if it helps the story. Whereas in a comedy, you might be like, this could be funny, or I'll say this. It'll help the narrative, but whereas in the drama, I don't know what the melody we're trying to paint, so I'm gonna. And with Paul Markham's, a lot of it was nonverbal. It was just sitting in, these moments of awkwardness, and just probably the conflicted feeling of, am I breaking the law even though I'm a U.S. attorney? Am I going against every kind of moral code that I had kind of, guided my life by up till that point? So it was fun.
What do you talk about? Could you talk about, according to IMDb, you have a 10 movie in 2018. You did it. You achieved.
Yeah, that's luck. Yeah.
Do you talking about comedy? So it's the auditions is pretty nervous, or now you don't need to take auditions; you came to you. So
yeah.
Is there any moment your comedy sense save your life or save you the moment, and then where your comedy sense came from?
The sensibility, the point of view, and all that.
Is it came from your parents or your uncle?
I wish, I'm from a big family, and I feel as though I'm the youngest of 6 kids. I think my brothers were very funny. I don't think my dad was intentionally funny. I think my mom's laugh was really important.